What does freedom and success mean to you? Are you looking to move beyond where you are now? You're in the right place to get insights on how to do that. Hello, I'm Sigrid Cast, Marketing and Visibility Strategist, and I'm transforming visibility into influence, impact, and high level opportunity with global virtual expos. And I have invited Dianna Jacobsen, accountant, business, and financial strategist. Hello, Dianna.
Good morning, Sigrid. How are you?
Great to have you here. Now, Dianna, you are Women in Finance Excellent Award finalist. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
There's not often many women in that area of finance so much coming to the forefront, but you are one of those that really shares powerful insights and the insights on the whole area of money, of building your business. In fact, Shine at Business is the name of your business. So, to help us shine at business, and of course, money is part of that. You have a very holistic approach to that whole scenario. Tell me, what is your background? Where is that coming from, and what's led you into this direction?
Certainly. So I grew up on a few thousand acres of wheat and sheep country in the Riverina in southern New South Wales, Australia. So lots of challenges. Money was not readily available. We were very much at the mercy and still are. I still have a cattle property at the mercy of seasons and commodity prices and so many other factors. I saw people leaving our little community. I went to a school with about 20 kids. So people would leave, and as I got older, I realized that they left usually because of financial reasons and family, but managing the money. And every time a family leaves a small community, it puts a dent into the heart of that community. It not only takes numbers away from schools and resources, but there's a real heartfelt connection between people in those small, relatively isolated communities. So I wanted to do something about that. That was very close to my heart, and I went into accounting because, to my understanding, somewhat naive at the time, no doubt, was it was to do with money. And as I went further through my training, I realized it was about people. So I added lots of other training around the people side of things. I added lots more training around the money and the business side. And while we see a lot of coaches in either money or in like psychology or mindset, there's not as many that work in tying them together, and even less that work in a practical sense of applying and implementing the strategies customized and tailored around each person's, each family's household, small business, whatever it might be,
Mm.
to to move them into where they want to be and to find that life of freedom and success in whatever that means for them.
And that is right. I mean, each person usually has a bit of a different approach and understanding of what is freedom actually and what is success. We all sort of look at it probably from whatever our background is, which is, you shared a little bit about your background. So coming from, if I can call it this, in the country rather than in the city. So there itself is already some sort of a difference, I would imagine. And I think you've pointed towards that feeling of how do I make money when I'm more outside of the city with many more opportunities. But you need to understand as well how that works, especially in business, as you've just pointed out. So you are looking at a strategic approach, but you're looking at that connection and combination of how are we thinking and understanding. So it's not just the mindset in terms of got to change my mindset, is I'm hearing it is about understanding the money situation itself. So from an accounting perspective, that is sort of very logic. Is that correct? So that area is fairly logic that you're moving through with to help those in business shine at business. I love that. Shine at business is such a great name. You're helping them to really bring this connection about from money. What is it? How does it work? How does it come together in the mindset, but to really achieve more and achieve business? Have I got that? Have I got that? balance?
Absolutely. And it is difficult to articulate, particularly to anyone that has not experienced this in any way. So
Hmm.
most people would be familiar with their accountant and the accountant speak and so on, and bank managers, financial planners, and so forth. And it also has a lot of relevance to city people because it's not just farming strategy, but anyone with a small business, retail or hospitality, trades, things like that. To a great degree, they are at the mercy of their customers, their client base, and whatever um, you know economic or political or social or all of those geopolitical factors impact their business. And we've seen in the last few years that the way of business globally has changed. We don't stand in our shops now and wait for people to walk in. So to connect the what I call mindset for a term that people can understand with the money takes some leverage, and we do get great leverage and great quantum leaps in the results because people generally have some resistance or conditioning or beliefs around money or numbers or maths, whether it was from school, whether it's cultural, whether it's religious, whether it's family, whatever it might be. And we're not judging that, but often that keeps us stuck. So we can put the mainstream business principles in place. We can do the mechanics with the numbers that the accountant or the bank manager tells us, but I realized probably 25 or 30 years ago that you can set out the same steps, whether it's about investing or anything else, for a number of different people. They can follow them to the letter and get very different results, which comes back to not the practical steps, but I guess, the psychological beliefs that people have. And it's no point just saying, I believe it'll work, if our core belief
Hmm.
is resistant to that and is not congruent with that. And without bringing a lot of psychology into our work, it's threaded through the steps that we use to work through people's businesses and to work them around those barriers and blockages.
Diana, that leads me to think of the different types of people that, like you say, have the approach while they follow step by step what is given to them, the outcomes are very different. The different type of people, do you first of all work specifically with a particular type of person in business? So we're focusing on business because that is really where we all want to succeed and achieve that success. A particular type of people that you're working with, and do you find within those people some still are more achieving what they want to, more successful than others?
Yes, so I don't work with big companies. I don't work with corporates. I prefer to work with small family businesses, whether that's rural, regional, or city based, because that's where we make a difference, one family at a time, one person at a time, one individual, one couple, one family. And generally, life can have elements of being a struggle, or they've been raised with beliefs around elements of a struggle, like we have to work hard for money, or you've got to be careful for the big boys. There's ruthlessness there. If we want to get ahead, we might have to be not quite in our integrity. Beliefs like that trip us up. Whereas if we just put some pragmatic and fundamental processes in place that are way simpler than people are ever expecting, then we actually work around those barriers without people even realizing that so they haven't had to be hypnotized out of them or bump up against them. We've just put sensible steps in place. We normally take the numbers and the maths out because that in itself is a huge barrier for a lot of people, regardless of the sort of business they're in, whether it's a hands-on business or a professional business. And I work a lot in diagrams and colors, and I will end up with simple diagrams. My book has diagrams. They are handwritten by me because I didn't want them to be computer generated, because that's how I work. And I work with colored boxes and things like that people then take that and fill in the gaps and put in the arrows, and that becomes their business plan. And it is very workable and digestible and takes out all of the areas that they might have some resistance to, the numbers and the maths and the bigger beliefs.
And you've just touched on that. So we haven't mentioned that yet. Your book, and it is Shine at Business. It's about creating that life of freedom and success is a core component of your teachings, of your approach to things, which is an excellent read. And as you just mentioned, there are very direct, practical ways of getting to do work around your business and what you do. And I am very much into imagery and visuals as well. It kind of connects with the understanding of the brain, and I think so probably, people who love that would really really enjoy getting to read that book that you have there. Now you're talking about, or you mentioned earlier, global. We are in a world where we can globally connect, and when we're talking about family businesses, I guess we have a lot of entrepreneurs in the world today where you have perhaps just one, the woman or just the man who started and built the business, comes to a point where there is something that keeps them stuck. But the family business most of the time is at its core, because even if the man or the woman is really successful, it follows that the other partner then joins the business or stops what they are doing, and it actually does become a family business, even if the entrepreneur doesn't quite see it that way initially. So it is a you have two people or more than one person in the business. Is there any kind of a distraction having two that perhaps might be looking at things from different angles in a family business? Are there dynamics that perhaps are not as straightforward that you notice, Diana?
Oh, absolutely. To just pick up on your earlier point, there is how people learn. So there's variances in the percentages we hear, but it would be at least three-quarters of people that learn visually or kinesthetically, meaning hands-on, and a much lesser percentage that learn through auditory or linear. So the notes or the pages of numbers or telling people what to do. So hence colored diagrams that people can get engaged in and put their own workflows and so on is much more digestible. So this is where, when you get a couple of people, whether it's a husband and wife or partners or family members or just colleagues, you'll always bring different personalities. You'll bring different background conditioning and beliefs. You'll bring different experiences from their influential, experiences throughout the years. So you will never get people seeing the world the same. And the trick, I guess, for people that choose to work together, it doesn't work for everyone. And I acknowledge and admire the people that make it work. I normally start with drawing something like a Venn diagram. So two circles with an overlap and interlock in the middle, because each person brings in all of their own perspectives, and then there has to be some overlap. And that's where we find whether they are kinesthetic or auditory, or how they process the world, what their strengths are. There's a couple of other diagrams I use for the sort of the roles and the tasks within a business, and where people's specific strengths and aptitudes and passions lie, because there's no point putting people into a role if they are an extrovert. You don't want to stick them out the back. They'll go crazy and drive everyone else crazy. So all of these sorts of things that we look at to work people to their strengths. And also with that overlap part in the middle, we often do things like whiteboards or post-it notes, depending on whether people are working in a physical environment and also their age. Sometimes it might be the group chats on the phone or other digital technology, but to convey the information in a manner that is interpreted and received the way it's meant to be. Because again, just telling someone an instruction may not compute properly, whereas a diagram, a post-it note, a text, whatever, might be the way that they interpret it. So there's lots of that stuff in the background with how any of your partners or team members work.
And I think you really touched on something here that reminded me of the business, the very first business I jumped into together with my husband. And he is that extrovert. He is the person who just connects with people. He's the life of a party. You can stick him anywhere, whether he knows people or not, and he can just make them all listen to his stories. He's lovely at that. So he was our front man in that business, being a shop, being a shop front business. So that was his role for him to be while I was leading behind the scenes and putting things into place. So I think that is really important in any situation. If we're thinking on, global, and if we're thinking businesses that are predominantly online, and even, coaching and consulting, that type is very much represented these days. Those businesses too need the same, whichever one of the two partners or other type of partners is that front person. They need to be out there and make use of their exuberance and the way that they can deal with things best. But the key is still that success comes, of course, with money. And with no money, you don't really have a business. So you've got to understand it. From times when I was working with clients in small business, often they would not be able to read their numbers on the sheets that accountants would give them. And I have always found that it is really important to look at things from the accounting and financial side, but you need to also transfer them into, from my perspective, marketing side. And what I'm hearing you are actually bringing that financial understanding not just to the marketing, but the overall understanding of the person to really run their business. Talk a bit more about those connectivities that happen there, because
You're,
that's really your key, isn't it?
it is, and you're exactly right. I couldn't begin to tell you how many people I've worked with of all ages, but notably the older ones that have been in business for a long time. And I break it down with, a couple of coloured boxes and things like that. And they'll say, wow, I've never understood what the balance sheet means, or that this means, or that means. And I just go, this is this, and it goes here in your business. So it's got to be relatable to what
Mm.
they're doing on a hands-on level. There's no point just, giving them pages of numbers and even going over the numbers, saying this number says this number says that. What does that mean? And how does that augur my business position? How does that translate into my practical actions or my decision making? So, yes, we need the numbers, and I can interpret those standing on my head into here's what that means in your business. So, the important part then is for any advisors to have an understanding. And I travel the whole country to visit my clients, what I call their reality, whether it's their shops or their farms or their factories or their workshops, so that I've got an understanding of how their system works, so that any of the numbers that we process for them, then it reflects the decisions that they need to make. Or we're not always their accountant, because I have an accounting practice, but I do the strategic planning far and wide, both nationally and further, because then it's taking the numbers that they have from their accountant or from their bookkeeping system and manipulating or extrapolating them to usable data, so that with
Mm.
our programs these days, like Xero is our preference, but I've reckon whatever it is that you use, Xero has a lot of versatility, which is why I like it, because we can set it up to reflect the areas of data that directly correlate or translate what they're doing, so that they can make decisions in real time. But we don't have to harp on about the numbers. It's more about how is this auguring for growth, or where have you got increasing returns or diminishing returns in its simplest form. People think bigger is better in business, but often it's not, because you end up making less and less margin. So it's finding where that right size is, or how to grow strategically, not just get big quickly. So I use a diagram with staircase to
Right.
sort of break that down for people. So yes, it's taking the numbers and then translating that into practical actions at their level.
And that is so important. When I first was in business and took those businesses on, we purchased them, we bought into them, so we didn't start them, which is often what people do. They start their business, so they have that step by step initially. But I bought them, so I had to get into understanding that. So it's really important. Now you're talking from the accountant's perspective, but obviously you're bringing that whole understanding of it. If we leave the word mindset aside for a moment, it's really understanding what you're doing in business. And it is important, no matter how much, the scenario might be out there. Oh, it'll just happen when you think about it and believe in it and talk about it. And, yes, okay, that's one side of it. And yes, you do need to have your passion for it because passion drives you. But you've also got to understand what's happening behind the scenes. I remember accountants that I have had in my time, they never connected what I actually wanted to achieve to the numbers that they showed me. So I'm hearing from you that is a big part of what you do. You bring this together. How does the numbers fit into what you want to achieve, or how can you achieve your dream, the success that you have in mind? What numbers do you need to look at for that? I love that. So you really are, from an accounting perspective, very different to other accountants. What sort of a
I
key,
hear that a lot.
yeah, what's a key element that you understand people, or that you strive to understand people before you talk about numbers? Would that be a way of saying it?
Probably both, but to me, the numbers on the page are just like a necessary evil of do your tax, tick the boxes, meet the obligations, and it becomes a big expense of time and money that is really not useful if you can't leverage from that.
Hmm.
We now have to, in Australia, lodge quarterly or monthly business activity statements and various other obligations. So we've got our numbers in real time with data feeds from bank accounts and so forth. So much is automated compared to, back in the day when I started, when it was manual processing of bank statements and check butts. And so that data is there. So without drowning people in it, it's to become more efficient and effective in your business
Hmm.
by having that information in real time at a glance and a snapshot, and understanding what the action then that would uh, encourage you to take within your business, because we all want to take action to fix things, but if we're working hard to fix the wrong things, or we're not understanding the connect or the disconnect, then we can be just very busy, and a lot of people are drowning in busyness,
Yeah.
but it is not effective
Yeah.
busyness.
That is so true. The word busy comes through all the time. I'm just too busy at the moment to do this or to do the other. I want to briefly touch on, for a global audience, and you do work globally with businesses as well, on the accounting side of things, the way that accounting works and has to work and has to be approached here in Australia, where we are, where you and I are, might sound different to the US or to Europe. However, the principles of accounting are the same, aren't they? I see you nodding.
Correct.
And I just want to mention, when you're talking about Zero, it is an accounting system. It's an online, accessible accounting system. I think it's a global one, and there are various different ones. So, whatever country you, listener, are in at the moment, whatever system you use, Dianna, you're still able, or you are definitely able, to work with people on any level and in any country, because it's the principles behind it that help us to shine at business when we understand how the business and the finances work, and when we can put our mind to what makes our business grow. Now, what is, you talked about how you got to be where you are. What is something on a very personal level that you would happily share, that kind of filters into why you're doing what you're doing, apart from what you've already shared, that gives a person that drive? Yes, I want to know more what Dianna is doing and how she might be able to help me.
Well, this is also my story. Okay. So I came from, as I said, a family farm. There was never spare money. I, worked and put myself through uni and worked my way up and gradually sort of learned. And now I think I would be reasonably well versed in what we might call the psychology of money, or, when I work with people, seeing the different experiences that have influenced where they are. I've done all of that. I've done lots of years that were very difficult. I've done the challenges. I've done a lot of the mistakes, and I've studied a lot of the understanding stuff as well as the financial aspects throughout those years and implemented them myself. So, yes, I am case in point, but I've done that with probably hundreds of other people, both one on one and through our group sessions. And, I'm honoured to be part of their journey, but at the end of the day, they're doing that work. But it's about bringing a very authentic approach and 110% believing in that approach and understanding it, and also understanding why perhaps what they've been doing hasn't been working, and also why a lot of the programs that people invest time and money into fail for them because there has been some sort of limiting belief, of which they're generally unaware, and it doesn't get raised in the teaching either. So for me, it's very much about helping people to have a better quality of life. And just the other comment on that, Sigrid, is we see in the world people making a difference from the top down. The people like Bill Gates and whoever that can spend billions of dollars and build schools and do this and do that, and that's fabulous. But I firmly believe that the difference to the world globally comes from each person individually. It's each person doing what they do, living their best lives, being their best selves, just trying a little harder to improve their own sense of freedom and success and well-being. Because whether that's financially or in any other field, I talk a lot about who is the wealthy you, meaning in all of those holistic senses. So just making a difference, one person or one family at a time, that ripples out. They're a little bit kinder. They might have a little bit more to give or to serve or to help or to support or a smile. And that's where the difference globally will come from. All of the little people, quote unquote, who are just going about their daily lives with perhaps a little bit higher vibration or higher energy or kinder outlook.
I love that. And I think that's where we are connecting on that. It's this energetic field or whatever you want to call it that we're individually putting out there. And I feel that you're putting that out into the world. The expertise that you have from personal, practical experience in your life, having come to become an accountant because you could see how necessary it is to know the numbers behind what's happening in a business to really achieve that success, to build a freedom in life around not having to work hard, but to work and have a life as well. You've certainly wonderfully shared that with us today, Dianna. Accountant, business and financial strategist. What's one thought you would like to leave our audience with for today?
Probably just whether you're a believer in faith and theology or quantum physics, noetic science. I've studied all of them. I've looked at where they interact. And quite frankly, they're all saying the same thing. So don't be put off by any labels. Put your own label on everything, whether you label it God or universal source or quantum science, whatever you want to label it. At the end of the day, as Sigrid said, we have this electromagnetic field. We have this vibrational. We are energetic beings. Money is a form of energy that we attract and repel, and stickability is what we want to work on as well. And prosperity and abundance are not just about money. They are about so much more. So for every little thing in your day, look for the good, look for the gratitude, amplify and magnify. For us, we're very grateful we're having some rain. We badly needed rain. We might be very grateful that we've got a reliable car or someone friendly serves us at a shop or whatever it might be. But look for all of those little signals of abundance and prosperity, and you will find that you just start the momentum for more.
Once you look to see it, you see more and more of it. I absolutely love that. Thank you so much for leaving us with that thought for today, Dianna. As I said, Dianna Jacobsen, accountant, business and financial strategist, helping us to shine at business wherever in the world you are. Thank you, Dianna.
Thanks, Sigrid.